When I was a sophomore at Crestwood University, joining a sorority felt like the perfect way to make my college experience complete. My name is Maya, and I had always been the kind of girl who studied hard, worked part-time at the campus coffee shop, and rarely got into drama. But when I got a bid from Delta Chi Theta, one of the most respected sororities on campus, I thought I had finally found my place. At first, everything was amazing. I clicked instantly with a few girls, especially Harper, my roommate during pledge week, and Sophie, the chapter's vice president. Harper was funny, easygoing, and genuinely supportive, while Sophie was polished, organized, and intimidatingly popular. Still, she took me under her wing, and I couldn't help but feel proud when she introduced me at events as one of the sweetest new girls we've ever had. But things started to change about 2 months in. It began small. Side glances when I walked into the chapter house, whispered conversations that stopped when I got closer, and a general sense that I was suddenly on the outside. I tried to brush it off as paranoia, but one night during a mandatory meeting, Sophie looked directly at me and said, "Some of you need to remember that our reputation is everything. Lies and dishonesty have no place in this house." Everyone turned to stare at me. My stomach dropped. I had no idea why. After the meeting, Harper pulled me aside and whispered, "Don't let them get to you. I know you didn't do anything." I asked her what she meant, but she shook her head and said, "Just, be careful. Someone's saying things." That was all she gave me, but it was enough to make me panic. Over the next week, my phone blew up with passive-aggressive texts from girls I thought were my friends. Things like, "Can't believe you'd stoop that low," and "You should be ashamed." I confronted Sophie, begging her to tell me what was going on. She smirked and said, "If you really don't know, that's even worse." By the time the chapter's formal came around, no one would talk to me except Harper. I felt like a ghost in my own house. Then, during the event, the president, Lena, stood up to make an announcement. She said, "As of tonight, one of our members has been placed on probation pending review for serious dishonesty that could damage our chapter." She didn't say my name, but everyone knew. Harper squeezed my hand under the table and whispered, "I'll help you figure this out." "Someone's setting you up." I nodded, but inside, I was terrified. What lie could be so serious that it threatened my place in the sorority? Who was spreading it, and why? I couldn't shake the feeling that someone wanted me out, and I had no idea what I was about to uncover. The Monday after the formal, I got called into a standards meeting. For those who've never been in Greek life, it's basically like being summoned to court, except the jury is made up of your peers. I sat across from Lena, Sophie, and 2 other officers while they flipped through papers with my name on them. My heart raced so hard I thought they'd hear it. Lena finally spoke. "Maya, there have been troubling allegations. We've received multiple reports that you've been spreading rumors about sisters, specifically about Sophie." I blinked at her, completely confused. "What rumors?" Sophie folded her arms and gave me this look like she'd already won. "Don't play dumb. People said you've been telling others that I slept with one of the frat presidents to get our sorority more influence." I felt the air leave my body. "What? I never said that. That's insane. I would never." But Sophie interrupted. "Funny, because 3 different people claim they heard it directly from you." The room spun. I wanted to scream, to cry, to demand proof, but Lena just shook her head. "This kind of behavior is toxic. If we can't trust you, how can you remain in this house?" I looked at them in disbelief. "You don't actually believe this, do you? You've known me for months. Why would I risk everything to make up something like that?" No one answered. They just scribbled notes, and after 10 minutes, I was dismissed with the promise that a decision would be made soon. I stumbled out of the room in shock. That night, Harper sat cross-legged on my bed while I tried not to cry. "Someone's lying," she said firmly. "But who? And why Sophie?" I thought about it. Sophie was powerful, admired, untouchable. If someone wanted me gone, pinning a rumor about her on me would be the fastest way to do it. But who hated me enough to orchestrate this? Over the next few days, I became a detective. I listened more carefully, lingered in the kitchen, checked social media posts for subtle digs. That's when I noticed something strange. Clara, another sophomore, was suddenly glued to Sophie's side. Clara and I had never been close, but we'd shared a couple of classes. She was ambitious, always angling for leadership positions, and I remembered once overhearing her complain that she deserved more recognition in the house. And now, she was everywhere Sophie was. Laughing with her at lunch. Sitting next to her during meetings. Posting selfies captioned, "My ride or die," with a sorority heart emoji. One afternoon, I casually asked Clara if she'd heard anything about the rumor. Her smile froze for a second, then she shrugged. People talk. Maybe you should worry less about what others think and more about yourself. It was subtle, but the way she said it made my skin crawl. That night, Harper whispered, "I think Clara's involved." I heard her bragging about how Sophie trusts her now. She wants a spot on exec board next year. If you're out, that opens things up. It suddenly clicked. Clara had motive. But motive wasn't proof. And without proof, I was just a liar to everyone else. I realized then that if I didn't find a way to expose her, I was going to lose everything. The official notice came 2 days later. I was placed on probation, no events, no voting, no wearing letters, until the sorority finished reviewing my case. To everyone else, probation meant guilty. People stopped sitting next to me in the dining hall, stopped answering my texts, stopped inviting me anywhere. The only person who stuck by me was Harper, and even she admitted that if things didn't change, they'd vote me out permanently. I felt like I was trapped in a nightmare. Every time I walked into the chapter house, conversations died. My stomach twisted when I overheard someone whisper, "That's the one who made up the rumor." The worst part? Sophie wouldn't even look at me anymore, like I wasn't worth her time. But Harper kept me focused. "We need proof," she said. "If Clara started this, there has to be a crack somewhere. People like her always slip up." So we started digging. First, we checked group chats. Nothing obvious. Then we scrolled through Instagram stories. Again, nothing. But when Harper pulled up an old Snapchat memory from the night of the formal, my pulse spiked. It was a short clip of Clara in the bathroom with 2 other girls, laughing and whispering. At the end of the clip, Clara looked straight into the camera and said, "Well, Sophie will love me for this one." Then the video cut off. It wasn't solid proof, but it was suspicious. Why would Clara say something like that the exact night my probation was announced? We decided to confront one of the girls in the video, Jenna, who wasn't super close to Clara. We caught her after class, and Harper casually asked, "Hey, remember the night of formal?" Clara said something about Sophie. What was that about? Jenna hesitated, her eyes darting. "Look, I don't want to get involved." "Jenna," I pleaded, "I'm about to lose everything over this. Please." She sighed. "Fine. Clara told us that she overheard you trashing Sophie. She said she was just passing it along. But honestly, I never heard you say anything." Clara was the only one who claimed she did. My chest tightened. So Clara was the source. She hadn't just spread the rumor, she invented it. We finally had a lead, but here was the problem: Clara was clever. She'd never admit it, and without something concrete, the exec board would believe her over me. That weekend, I decided to test her. I accidentally left my notebook open in the lounge with a fake note inside, "Meeting Sophie tomorrow to clear the air. She'll finally hear my side." I wanted to see if Clara would take the bait. Sure enough, the next day Sophie cornered me. "Don't even bother trying to manipulate me with fake sympathy," she snapped. "Clara already told me you were planning some stunt." My blood boiled. Clara had read my note and twisted it. Again. That's when it hit me: if Clara was watching me this closely, maybe I could use that against her. If I set the right trap, she might expose herself without even realizing it. Harper leaned in that night and whispered, "Then let's build the trap." Harper and I stayed up until 3 a.m. planning. If Clara wanted to monitor me, we'd give her something to grab onto, but this time, it would lead her straight into a corner. The idea was simple: plant a piece of bait so specific, so juicy, that if it got out, we'd know exactly who leaked it. So I staged a phone call in the chapter lounge, making sure Clara was nearby pretending to study. My voice carried just enough when I said, "Yeah, I'll be meeting with Dean Parker next week. He wants to clear things up about Sophie and the frat president situation." I ended the call and made sure to look around nervously, like I'd said too much. Clara's head didn't move, but I saw her eyes flick toward me. The next morning, Sophie stormed into my room, her face red with anger. "Are you serious? You're dragging the dean into this now? Do you have any idea how much trouble you could get us in?" I froze, then slowly smiled. "I never said anything to you, Sophie." "Who told you that?" Her expression faltered for just a second. "Clara mentioned it." There it was. Proof she was carrying my words straight to Sophie. But I couldn't stop there, I needed undeniable evidence. That weekend, Harper helped me set up her old voice recorder. We placed it under the couch cushions in the lounge and waited. I casually told Harper in front of Clara that I had screenshots that could ruin Sophie if I wanted to. Then we left. Hours later, we checked the recording. My hands shook as we listened to Clara whispering to another girl, "Maya's such an idiot. She doesn't even realize she's handing me everything I need. If Sophie believes me, Maya's done. And when Maya's gone, exec will have to notice me." I nearly dropped the recorder. There it was, the confession. Clear, undeniable. The next standards meeting, I walked in with Harper by my side. The whole room looked ready to finalize my expulsion. Lena folded her arms. "Maya, we've given you multiple chances to take responsibility. Do you have anything to say before we vote?" My heart pounded as I pulled out the recorder and pressed play. Clara's voice filled the room, smug and sharp. "Maya's such an idiot. She doesn't even realize she's handing me everything I need." The silence that followed was deafening. Sophie's face went pale. Clara stammered, "That's taken out of context," but no one bought it. For the first time, the exec board looked at me with something other than contempt. Lena's voice was icy. "Clara, step outside. Now." When the door shut behind her, Sophie refused to meet my eyes. For weeks she had believed Clara without question, and now the lie was laid bare. But I wasn't celebrating yet. Because I could feel it, this wasn't over. Clara wasn't the type to go down quietly, and if I knew anything by now, it was that she still had cards to play. The night after Clara was caught, everything in the sorority felt different. Whispers followed me, but this time they weren't full of suspicion, they were full of guilt. A few girls even apologized for believing the worst about me. Sophie, though, stayed silent. She kept her distance, her pride clearly too big to admit she'd been wrong. I thought it was over. That I could finally breathe again. But Clara wasn't finished. 2 days later, she posted a long, dramatic message on her Instagram story. She claimed she was the real victim, that I had been bullying her, and that the recording was manipulated. She even hinted she might transfer schools because of the toxic environment she faced. The post got attention fast, sympathetic DMs, likes, shares. Suddenly, the story wasn't about her lying. It was about me supposedly pushing her out. I was furious, but Lena called me before I could spiral. "Don't worry, Maya. We're handling it." That Friday, the sorority held an emergency chapter meeting. The whole house packed into the living room, the air thick with tension. Clara sat smugly in the corner, acting like she still belonged there. Lena stood and said, "We've reviewed the evidence. We've spoken to multiple people. And it's clear, Clara fabricated the rumor. She acted alone, with the intent to harm Maya's reputation and manipulate this chapter. Effective immediately, Clara is expelled from Delta Chi Theta." Gasps filled the room. Clara jumped up, shouting, "You're making a mistake. She's the liar, not me." But no one listened. For the first time, the girls weren't looking at me like I was guilty. They were looking at Clara like she was poison. Security escorted her out of the house, her angry voice echoing down the hall. When the door finally slammed shut, I felt something heavy lift off my chest. Afterward, Harper hugged me tight. "You did it. You proved the truth." But it didn't feel like victory. It felt like survival. I'd learned how quickly trust could shatter, how fast people could turn on you, and how dangerous ambition could be in the wrong hands. Sophie eventually came to me. She didn't apologize, not fully, but she did say, "I should have trusted you." Clara played me, too. I nodded, but inside, I knew things would never go back to the way they were. I stayed in the sorority until graduation, but I never forgot what happened. I kept my circle small, trusted only a few, and carried that recorder with me longer than I probably should have. Because once you've been kicked out over a lie, you never stop wondering how easy it would be for someone to try again.